Right, guys. Suppose we ought to talk about the situation at hand after the nuclear fallout from the biggest club you've ever seen. So big that rumor has it it's now starting to surpass the size of Jupiter. But I can neither confirm nor deny, simply is just rumours. But if you are a supporter of this club, I'm sure you can confirm whether West Ham are truly growing in size. They are just constantly, it's just massive, absolutely massive. They just keep growing, It's like the balloon that never pops, can never ever pop, so you just keep inflating it. That's kind of like West Ham at the moment. But the nuclear fallout in the Manchester United camp is something to behold. I think a lot of people, a lot of fans have snapped now at the situation that is this club, and have very much, many fans, I must say, have lost IQ points. They've lost IQ points. We don't know where they've gone. We've sent out missing IQ persons instead of points reports. Well, we might as well send out missing IQ points reports to the police, and hopefully they can scramble um, the police to go find where the brain cells for some people are, because we seem to be falling into a place where we're not quite acknowledging what the situation is. Like, we just assume that it's a simple one change fix and we don't have to do anything else. And I don't know how it can be about 11 years now since it's really been put to the forefront how screwed we are, and people still don't get it. People still don't understand what we are, and this inevitable decline that has just been seeping into into our lives as football fans. The Glazonomics still very much at large. The talks that they're butting heads at the ownership level, but you got Sergeant Ratcliffe, sweet talking Joel and Adam Glazer, um, probably is getting a pube out from his teeth before he goes into the interviews, because rumor has it that they don't shave down the glazes. So you know, yeah, if you do that, you do that, but not for me, not for me. But yeah, he glazes, he glazes the Glazers. So of course he's trying to put on a strong front. We're united, guys. We don't worry about it. Just you know, don't go panic stations. Just chill out, relax. It's like that video. It's like, Daddy, chill. What the fuck is even that? That's kind of what we are reacting, or how we're reacting to being told that everything's fine, right? I think we all know, we can't be mistaken. It's not fine. It's not all fine at all. It's actually quite tremendously bad. And, with the game that we've had, you wouldn't have thought that we were a Europa League finalist team. Now, I've got my own dilemmas about people saying that it's a disgrace that Man United or Tottenham could backdoor their way into Champions League. But there's a few case in points, right, in the same context of a team that is not performed league-wise getting in to a European competition where your league finish is rendered completely null and void. Because, hey, guess what? The lawmakers of the game of competitions have written it in its scripture that it's in the tiered UEFA body system of competition that the winners and the champions of the tier below qualify with a place in the tier above. It's kind of like a promotion relegation system. Some of you mid-table mediocrity teams, or big six but never win a trophy teams might have heard of. You know, I don't know if you have, but it kind of works like that. Now, with the new league format that the European competitions have, you don't get relegation. You don't go down to the division below, right? But it has always been the case that you can go from one competition, win that, go to the next one above you. West Ham did this 1 or 2 seasons ago. Europa Conference League winners qualified for Europa League. And no, everybody was like, yeah, congratulations, West Ham, congratulations. Let's have a look, shall we? Where did West Ham finish? Where did they finish? In, not last season, but the season before, when they won the trophy. So the season that they won the Europa Conference League to qualify for Europa was it down in 40? Yeah, it was down in 14th place. Guess what? 40 points. 40 points. Thereabouts the same points tally that they got this season. About the same. Down in 14th place. My oh my. But we didn't hear a peep, did we? We didn't hear a peep. No one battered an eyelid. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that West Ham can have such a disgraceful league performance, but still win a competition in Europe in a tiered system and then qualify for the tier above. No one cares. But if it's Man United and Tottenham Hotspur, now maybe, just maybe, people include Tottenham in this conversation because they just can't fathom the idea of Tottenham winning a trophy. They just think it would be completely unbelievable and would probably just want it to be so that it's like, oh, well, they won a trophy. What did they get from it? Nothing. Exactly. Get stuff. Well, here's another caveat to that point. Crystal Palace have an FA Cup final against Manchester City. I believe it's this coming weekend. And the winners of the FA Cup get a Europa League spot. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? They are currently 12th. Crystal Palace, 12th place, could qualify for Europa League. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody's talking about that. Again, Man United and Tottenham are the only ones that's a problem. Hey, guess what? It looks like. Oh, let's give you some examples of, a farmers' league, as proclaimed by the stock up their own arse Premier League fans. Sevilla. How many times have Sevilla finished in the mid-table mediocrity zone of the league positions? Is it not any wonder that Sevilla can have bad seasons by their metrics, by their standards, win the Europa League and get Champions League? And does anybody go in a crazy outcry like, oh, this is disgraceful, they've been shit in their league? Absolutely unacceptable. Should not be anywhere, should not be allowed to even talk about Champions League. Nobody said that. Nobody said that. Because nobody cares. Nobody cares. Because they will applaud it and they'll say, well done, Sevilla, you won the Europa League. Our league form has there's no relevance to conversation about Europa League, because here's the kicker: Manchester United have not lost a game in the whole of the Europa League competition this season. We've not lost once. We are unbeaten this season. And it's been a long Europa League season. We've not had we're lucky in a sense that we've not had the Champions League third place group stage finishers drop down to compete against us, because then the final could look very different based off this season. But that's just the way that the competition's been constructed this season. And here we are. Plenty of other teams that people say, oh, they've absolutely walloped Man United. Athletic Bilbao, everyone was like, yeah, good job on beating Rangers. Now to watch the Man United tears flow. And then they lose 7-1 on aggregate. Yeah. It almost feels like the dream world of some of the rival fans can't fathom the fact that Man United have had a good run of form in a competition this season. Because by their standards, Man United might as well just close its doors and cease existing as a football club. Go do a Bury Town, disappear, but this time never come back. I mean, I'm sure the fan base would go and absolutely load FC United and Manchester to the fucking eyeballs with funding, so much so that the FA are just like, holy shit, what is this amount of funding from the fans? We'd literally go and make FC United and Manchester our own Manchester United if that ever happened. Literally, it's a Manchester United fan club, football club. It's literally, that's what FC United and Manchester is. And we'd just go over there. We'd just go over there. If we lose our club, we'll just go over there. Because that's, again, as I've said, it's a football club owned by Manchester United fans, created by Manchester United fans. And fair plays to them. I think they've got an endorsement. I think it's like I don't know if it's like an ambassadorial thing or whether it's like an actual ownership thing with Eric Cantona, where he's sort of involved with that club now, and he poses in green and gold. He's like, yeah, fuck these Glazers, even though I think he's done photo shoots in the Manchester United kits since then, which is interesting. But nonetheless, one day you think one thing, the next you might think will feel a different way. But the game that we played has Manchester United fans delirious. They say regardless of Europa League outcome, whether we win or lose, does not matter. Sack Ruben Amorim. And I don't know, guys. We had a shite performance. Really shite performance against West Ham as the home side. And nobody really in this team wanted it, right? Nobody really cared on that football pitch. Now, that, of course, is a thing of concern because, you might as well label them light switch players who switch it on and off whenever they fancy it. Is problematic for the example you set for everybody else. You're talking players coming in the summer. If you've got light switch players that play for your club, guess what? All the players that come in, hey guys, try this new way of playing. It's called light switch play. So one game, you're literally the best player in the world. The next game, seriously, Paul Mullin from Wrexham could probably run rings around you. That's the new style. That's the new trend. It's new fashion. So yeah, come join us, and we'll turn you into shit too. That's kind of what the propagandist cry the from the player base that it seems to be at this club, and how it is at the moment. And yeah, pretty much as you can see there, saying that some players had great games. I disagree. I think everyone was fucking shite. Lenny Oro gets injured, but it's just there's something I can't seem to understand, guys. I get it where some people will say, "Hey, buck stops with the manager, right? No matter what happens at your football club, it's going to end up falling on the manager's head." And the thing is that I think that's just toxic. I think it's toxic in the sense that when the situation is not, is not influence, it's not, you can't influence it as a manager from a managerial or a head coach position. Key note, key noticeability about the words there is head coach, because that's what the official title of Amorim is. He's a coach. He's not a manager. Coach, head coach. That's what they hired him to be. So for me, as a head coach, you should not be going out of your way to, influence the whole of the club culture unless you are given, the ability and the power like a Sir Alex Ferguson once had. You could probably say in terms of, like Mikel Arteta has at Arsenal, where he can go and influence culture and go and change how the club operates pretty much off of a whim. Um, One thing that it surprises me is that the problems we have stem from the board, right? Stems from the ownership, that trickles to the board, that then trickles from the board to Amorim's bosses, and then, or the people just above Amorim, and then from there on to Amorim. The players have their own unique toxic culture where they don't really try, they don't put in effort when all the time consistently to a high level as they should. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, but you don't have the authoritative power to influence that, to change that. You need to prey on one side of those you know those aspects. Either the rock or the hard place has got to open up and actually start to support the man in the middle. What we've seen in board behaviours is that they can back a manager in a summer after calls for him to be sacked, go out in the summer with a director, sign him some players, and then say, "Hey, see what you can do with this." All more or less his players. That goes terribly wrong. Sack him, get an interim in whilst you're working behind the scenes um, to whisk up a deal for the new permanent manager. Now, some people argue Amorim should have come in the summer, and to be honest, I can't lie. It With this board, it doesn't actually matter what time Amorim would have come in. It really wouldn't have. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered, guys, and it wouldn't have mattered because the board genuinely don't know what they want. They don't know what they want, so they hired a manager who looked good by name and nature, had this trendy system he had. They didn't really study what that system was, and then they throw him into the deep ends like, "Great, you can develop, you can play system. Now go system. Systemize the system systemically." And he's sort of gone, well, in the interview, you told me that this wasn't this bad. And you've left me without the tutorial, without an instructions manual, and without, even with my expertise, the tools to actually find sufficient impact. Hiring Amorim, as much as I like the manager, hiring Amorim made no fucking sense because the board had no intent on deliberately going down a path where a manager plays a 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1. They had no intent for it, evidently. Because if they did, guess what? The January transfer window would have been a beautiful window. Yeah? And the manager would have been getting red carpets laid out for him. You know, they would have seen the warning signs in before January and absolutely gone fucking mental in January with deals, even if nobody of sufficient first team quality came in. Just load, like knowing what budget you got, deals, deal. Players with good promise and good adaptability, and players that are, quick learners. And that's kind of what we'd be reduced to. If you don't have a budget to sign guarantees, you have to sign somebody that you don't have to bank the next 5 years on them getting better to where they need to be. Get somebody who can learn, be a bit rough around the edges, but know how to do the job, right? And surround that with experience, and you'll see, that's more appropriate of a bandage for an axe wound. When you axe wound the leg, pretty much it's holding on. Rather than sticking a plaster on it by signing Patrick Dorgu and calling it a day, how about actually you put players on the transfer list, you sell a big name or two, you actually put players back into the team, and you actually get a surgeon to actually surgically repair what's what's gone wrong with that team. Now, we would be in a better position if for better, more adaptable players, but we're stuck with players that don't really know what their roles are in a team. And they, for whatever reason, it just means that 5 yard passes just become one of the most insanely hard things to do. I mean, the fact is that I see people saying anyone but Ten Hag, not anyone but Ten Hag, anyone but Amorim. And I think anyone but Amorim, interesting, because you did use the same thing for Ten Hag. You did use the same thing for Ranić, for fuck's sakes. You did use the same thing. And I'll compare this Amorim stint to Ralph Ranić in the sense that there's a guy that knows what's wrong. There's a guy that wants to fix something. If Amorim was a interim coach, he would have been gone a while ago. He would have been gone a while ago. The Glazers would have, vouched to get rid of him because he's saying things about the club that are negative. I mean, for example, Manchester United is losing its feeling of being a big club. And to be honest, Ruben, I think it already has lost the feeling of a big club. It's lost the feeling we are a big club, but it has lost that feeling. The only thing that reminds me with that feeling of us being a big club is the amount of abuse that we get from rivals that doesn't last for 1 or 2 weeks, every several months. No, it's every week. It's every week. And if it's not the team embarrassing themselves on the pitch, it's the boardroom making a stupid decision That absolutely just is completely immoral, completely lackluster of any um, psychological knowledge or anything. Just very null and devoid of any sort of directional impetus. Like you say, yeah, that's what we want. Go down this road. That's the end goal. Funny how every time they've said this decision is meant to improve this, they don't actually tell you how it does, how it improves, how it's going to get better. They don't tell you, and it's crazy how many people go, "Oh yeah, let's go do it, let's go do it." They've not once actually said how they are going to manage the club to get us through a tough period and then put us into a path of sustainable success. They've not said anything about that once. They've not even alluded to it. They've literally just said it's like you go and get an advertising board, and what you do is you just put the big title on it. Big title, big picture, nothing else. Do not put the date of a release for a trailer, for where it's going to be shown, or, you know, how long it will be shown for. No information, do not include that. Just stick a big fat title on the header, stick a picture underneath, and call it a day. That's the Ineos selling the project to Manchester United fans. But people sit here and say, but Amorim's the problem. So the board have literally told the fan base, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing, guys. We don't. We sold you to believe that we know what we're doing, that there's a plan, but we're winging it. We're absolutely winging it. We are praying that Amorim can have a better run of things next season if we back him this summer. But the fans don't care about summer, don't care about signings, don't care about system or, signing players for the manager. People say just get rid of him now. He's a fraud. Was he a fraud at Sporting, guys? Was Ten Hag a fraud at Ajax, guys? Was Jose a fraud at Chelsea? What about Real Madrid? Was Louis van Gaal a fraud for the Netherlands or a fraud for Bayern Munich? You know what? There's an awful lot of fraud, guys. There's loads of frauds. Every single manager, surprisingly enough, becomes a fraud when they touch our club. Everybody's a fraud. Everybody's fraudulent. Oh, that's interesting because the manager names and system and style and approach and ethics changes every single time. But the club, the player names that are on everyone's lips never changes. They're always there. The one constant variable, the Manchester United Football Club. Player names can change, of course, but there's one name that's always been there, that has headlined everything that Manchester United has done, and that's Glazers, the Glazer family. They are the bane to our existence, and of course, Ineos. It's like the turn, the heel turn. Ineos, the heel turn. They were meant to be the saviours years ago. They were hailed as potential saviours. The British contingent, or I say the Brexit contingent of the fan base. The proper Brexity sort of like, oh fuck, Middle Eastern ownership. We only want British ones, and they were just like, yeah, no, just bring him in, bring him. He'll be our savior, and basically did a deal with the devil, and then picked up that steel chair and then shanked it into your back, and you go down, you fall to the ground, you turn around with tears in your eyes, and you're like, but why do you do this to me? Why the chair in the back? Why have you done this to me? And they say, it's just good business. It's just good business. Except, funny thing is it's not. It's not actually good business. And I think Ineos have really cocked themselves up with doing this deal because they've essentially signed the warrant to be the Glazers' whore. Literally. The Glazers the pimp and use the bitches. Simple. Use the hoes. Whoever threw that paper, your mum's a hoe. That's kind of what Ineos are to the Glazers now. This is it. This is the makeup of the ownership of Manchester United. And Omar Barada, COO at Manchester City, overseen success. Manchester City, a club that's come from almost nothing to absolute prominence, on the world stage. Of course, people will say, "Oh, but they cheated to do it." Well, last time I checked, is Omar Barada is not an owner of Manchester City, and the problems do stem from the ownership. Again, with that in relation to that, so that's its own problem. But Omar Barada then goes to CEO, gets a promotion, and has, funnily enough, been doing almost exactly the same things that Richard Arnold and Ed Woodward was doing. I mean, fundamentally, has not actually made any positive decision that the fans have gone, "Oh my God, that's fantastic, Omar. Well done. Good job." We've not, have we actually praised Omar Barada for anything? Have we actually praised him for anything yet? I mean, guys, he's been here for about a year now. Well, not a year, but it'll be a year in the summer, but in that time he's done absolutely nothing. The only things he really has done is piss off the loyal fan base, like the ones that were proper diehard. He's also cut charities. So the people that, you needed Manchester United as a lifeline to just exist for the sake of community. And he's just basically gone, sorry, boss's orders. So Omar Barada's the Glazers bitch as well. Dan Ashworth was probably the only person that may have spoke a different tune. They got rid of him very quickly. Now, whether that's a tune that the fans would have actually disliked, we don't know. But he got axed very, very quickly. Jason Wilcox, only really doing these little niche deals for potential players, sign them at an academy level to stick them into the first team when they arrive. Christopher Vivell, same thing. No one's really, screaming the language that we've got to get first team quality in. Get the standards of the club up. No one's doing anything about it. No one's doing a damn thing about it. It's very slow. It's very gradual. It's like they talk about Cunha, Mateus Cunha. The deal's progressed. It's at an advanced stage now. You just watch, right? And I would literally just say, "I told you so. I told you so." If Mateus Cunha deal does not get wrapped up soon, you then get the here we go for Mateus Cunha to another club. And it's just like they came in the 11th hour and they swooped in and took the player away. It happens for a club that just, they sleep. They sleep. They've got to save every little penny, If you save the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. And it's like, that's exactly the problem, is nobody else in football does this, Jim. Nobody. Nobody cares about the pennies for the pounds to look after themselves. No, the owners look at the pounds and go, right, blank check, how much do you need? That's usually what happens. Now, some owners do look at profits and think the sustainable method to a football club is, buy cheap, sell for profit, and then, use that money to then continue that process, but to do it more effectively. I don't see a future in football for that, unfortunately. And Manchester United might be the first case case in point, to ultimately, you know, losing its way by chasing waterfalls and believing in stupid dreams about doing things very particular ways, and ultimately losing out. And we would have nobody else to blame but the ownership. But let's sack another manager, not change anything else, right? And then from there, we will just give it to another manager. And then after a couple of games, we'll say this new manager is a fraud also. Give us a name that you actually know would change the culture of this player base, right? And would fight against the toxic cancer that is Glazonomics. Glazonomics has not left the building. It's still there. And it's infected everybody that could remotely do a good job. They are killing us. The Glazers are still killing us. Joel Glazer is very much still got his hands, and not just one, both hands on that steering wheel. But nobody cares. That is on you. If you can't realize that, that's on you. Yeah? Jimbo is just a lab rat and a bitch to the Glazers. That's all he is. And he won't, unless he really does a madness and throws the kitchen sink at the Glazers and says, listen, just take this deal and fuck off. If you do that, then maybe there's hope for you yet. And only then is there hope. Until then, you are as bad as Joel and Avram Glazer and any other Glazer that has royally fucked this club in the past. You are culpable equally. So, yeah, this is our situation, guys. You know, the buck stops with the manager. No matter what happens, you know, what's that? Was that a crash on the M25? Well, must be Amorim's fault. Did somebody's skydiving parachute not open up and they hit splat on the ground and turned into strawberry jam? Must be Amorim's fault. Anana driving around, allegedly driving around. I think this probably was confirmed, but who knows? Driving around a uninsured vehicle. Amorim's fault. You know, I don't think you can say for many things that is the manager's fault. Look at the situation. This guy, as the head coach, cannot take responsibility for the club being in a disastrous situation. Ineos love you. Ineos and the Glazers absolutely love you guys. Saying that it's Amorim's fault. They love you guys. Honestly. They'd want to maybe say, listen, if I cash app you, you know, some, you know, cheeky decent money, would you carry it on? But really make it super toxic, like and really obsessive. Maybe they could get a you know, they could get a royal kicking out of that. They could probably do that. Who knows? But yeah, my stance is that, you know, Amorim can make as many mistakes as he wants, as far as I'm concerned. The problem is that we still think, as a fan base, that he is the only person that's an issue here. Oh, the points per game is better under Ten Hag than it is under Amorim. Tell me, did the fire get lit? Was the fire or was the decay of this season did it start when Amorim came in, or did it start before that? Because I think it started the second that uh, Ineos started planning for last summer. I think that's when it started. The decay of this season that we've seen started before they even made plans, because they were making decisions that they do not have educated guesses on. They don't have it. It's just uneducated guesses. They're just literally, it's like running through a house of mirrors, right? But you're doing it in the dark, right? You're doing it in the dark. You don't know where the fuck you're going, and you probably won't get out for a good hour. And you know, that to me, you're talking about that work ethic is what runs this club. I'll tell you what, I know Yeti's pissed off with people, you know, talking, whatever about his owner, and him going out on the pitch and confronting Nuno Espirito Santo. Listen, that there is like, I wouldn't recommend an owner going to pitch side and getting in the manager's face like that. But fucking hell, that's the biggest contrast between Glazonomics and an owner that fucking cares. That's the biggest contrast, right? Because that's a guy that will actually act. It's a shame for Forest that he also owns another UEFA club, and he can't act in, doing things, because I think he looks at Forest and thinks, this is the closest project I've got to really going to the big leagues, like the biggest big leagues. But he can't really fully send it with Forest. He has to have other people do it for him because of the conflict of interest dangers between owning another UEFA club. Now, if that were to no longer become an obstacle, I think you see Forest go from, wow, they're punching above their weight, to, well, welcome to the Big Six, Nottingham Forest. Goodbye, Manchester United. Goodbye, Tottenham. Make yourself at home, Forest. Yeah, the fridge of beers is over there. The the cocktail bars just down there off to the right. The swimming pool with the jacuzzis on the side is just straight ahead of you up the 2 flights of stairs, and bed and breakfast, proper 5-star, delicious. Foragings shall be delivered at a moment's notice, if and when you request it. That's that's basically how the makeup of this league would end up becoming. And seriously, it's just a complete and utter piss take that our fan base don't really, they don't recognise that the ownership has a problem. They just think it can only ever be the head coach or the manager. But anyways, let me know what your thoughts on this situation are. Do you agree with what I've said? Do you disagree with what I said? Do you think I'm off off my head, or do you think I'm onto something? Pop it in the comments section down below. And also on top of that, smash the like button and subscribe. Hey, if Manchester United Football Club were to go under, right? Let me know. It's if you, as United fans, would you go over to FC United Manchester and request to rebrand, to rename the club as Manchester United Reborn, Manchester United Reborn, and we'll send that club to Champions League. We'll just nab the history off of Manchester United and claim it as our own, because we're fans of the club. We are the lifeblood, and the biggest anti-Glazer policy littered all over the fucking place. Literally, you cannot touch this club if you have touched the hand of a Glazer. It's like the Joachim Low handshake curse. where he sticks the hand down into the jungle and, goes, a bit of a little joyride up the nostril, goes to shake the hands, and then that hand shakes another, then that hand then shakes another, and it just keeps going, and there's just more and more people being added to this infected list. And ultimately, we'll find you and we'll silence you. Yeah, we'll put you somewhere where they can't hear you screaming for help. And yeah, at least our club will be safe from you. But anyhow, leave your thoughts in the comment section, as well as subscribing and liking the video. This one's been a long one, but I suppose you guys are owed a long one. Yeah, that's what she said. Well, that's what he said to her, but never mind. But yeah, tomorrow night, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly shall be on your screens again, and I shall be there. And then following that would be, well, actually, when do we play next? When do we play next, guys? When does it happen? Friday? Yes, Friday. So Thursday will be match reaction day. Not match reaction. Jesus Christ. Match preview day. Chelsea versus Man United. If ever you needed to know a game that United just won't win, it's there. And then other games just happening throughout from the weekend into midweek. Okay. So yeah, we'll catch you guys tomorrow night. And then obviously, of course, Thursday after that. And yeah, look forward to it. Should be an interesting week. And yeah, the fan base meltdown continues. Take care, people. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evenings. And yeah, we'll catch you soon. Bye bye.